Is it
Preparing
okay,
to
Jane?
live stream.
I've just changed my place again because the internet was disconnecting again and again.
Yes, it's okay, ma'am. And we are live now. Attendees are joining and you are visible and audible.
Okay, thank you.
105 attendees so far.
Good.
Hundred and 30 attendees.
Hello and good morning. And I am Jacob Schiller, Assistant Professor in the Department of English at St. Anthony's College, and I have the privilege of welcoming you once again to this faculty enrichment program, the second edition being organized by the Department of Value Education, St. Anthony's College, Shillong, as part of the Don Bosco Higher Education Network Consortium. And as we begin, I would like to introduce you to the organizations that are hosting this webinar this morning. So this is our second edition, and we are very delighted to be able to bring you this edition today. And this particular webinar is being hosted and organized by the IUS, or the Salesian Institutions of Higher Education. It is an institute. It is the coming together of several Catholic institutions guided by the values from the Gospel and Salesian pedagogy, based on the lives of lived by Don Bosco. And it exists to assist in the protection and advancement of human dignity and of cultural heritage through research, teaching, and various services offered to the local, national, and international communities. And today, as a network, it exists in 94 different centers of superior studies around the world and present in 22 countries in 5 continents. The DBHEI, there are more than 50 different higher educational institutions which are part of the DBHEI. And the type of institutions that we have here are institutions of higher educations, which include universities, engineering and polytechnic colleges, agricultural colleges, arts and science colleges, colleges of education, special institutes like printing, media, etc. The Don Bosco Higher Education Network Consortium is the coming together of 7 different colleges in India, and I've put the names of the colleges on the screen: Salesian College Sonada Siliguri, Don Bosco Arts and Science College, Angada Vit Gadavu, sorry for my pronunciation once again. Then we also have Don Bosco College, Itanagar, Arunachal Pradesh, Sacred Heart College, Tirupattur, Tamil Nadu, Don Bosco College, Yaligiri, Tamil Nadu, St. Anthony's College, Shillong, Meghalaya. So we would like to also acknowledge the presence of the principals of these different colleges in our webinars today. Then again, this is being held in technical collaboration with the 6 different colleges that we have highlighted. And this morning, we are going to start with a word of prayer to be given by Reverend Father Dr. Joby Joseph, SDB, Rector of St. Anthony's College. So we shall invite Reverend Father Joby Joseph to kindly lead us in the word of prayer.
As we begin this webinar on Faculty Enrichment Edition 2, let's place ourselves in the presence of God, Father, Son, and the Spirit. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day, and we turn to you in prayer, in submission, and in glory. Listen to a reading from the Holy Scripture, Book of Psalms, Psalm number 8. O Lord, how sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. When I look at the heavens, the work of your hands, the moon, the stars that you have arranged, what are us human beings that you care for us mortals, but you love us eternally? O Lord, how sovereign, how majestic is your name through all the earth. God our Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for every opportunity that you give us for learning. And we turn to you in gratefulness and to glorify your name. You alone who give us truth, knowledge, and wisdom, and walk us in light, taking away from darkness into truth, leading us from all that is untruth and giving us life from all that is not alive in us. Lord, we pray today for these colleges, the 7 colleges that are part of our consortium of the Don Bosco Higher Education Network. We pray for these institutions and the youth, the young people that we serve, that we are able to lead them truly to knowledge, to truth, and to life. We pray for our resource persons, Dr. Rakal Prakasta, Subrata Prakasta, Dr. Sandhu Saikia, Ma'am Medairi Tham, and all of us in the organizing team. Bless all of us. And we pray for especially the participants that we learn and we enrich ourselves and we are able to understand the pain, the difficulty that all of us go through, maybe a time like this all the more. May we be filled with love, care, and concern for the world around, and especially the people who are in difficulty and pain, that in our own ways, Lord, you may give us a willing heart, a generous hand to reach out to them. We surrender this day and this event into your sacred hands. Bless us and be with us. And we pray that this becomes an experience for us to become more qualified, enlightened teachers to lead the young to knowledge, to truth, and to life. Lord, in your precious name we pray. Amen.
I now have the privilege of inviting the principal of St. Anthony's College, Reverend Brother Dr. Albert Eldekar, to kindly deliver the welcome address in our midst. Over to you, brother.
Thank you, Sir Jacob. Warm good morning to our esteemed resource persons, respected Reverend Fathers, principals of the 6 Catholic institution with which we are collaborating to host this live webinar, members of the organizing team, and the technical and all of you are valued attendees. I have the pleasure of welcoming you to the 2nd edition of our webinar on faculty enrichment program being held as part of the Don Bosco Higher Education Network Consortium. In our first edition, I had emphasized the need for teachers to continue learning and to continue sharpening their skills whilst at the same time expanding their knowledge base. Today, we take a few more steps in that direction to increasing our knowledge of the world and to learn from others who have invested their time in learning more about it. Even if one were to give up doing everything else, but sit in front of the computer and surf the web 24/7, or pour over volumes of books day in and day out, it would not be possible to learn everything in a way that would make it meaningful and enjoyable. But to have an opportunity to sit across the table, or now as the case may be connecting through this webinar, it is possible to learn something of worth. While at the same time, have that human touch that is so vital in the learning process. We cannot remain isolated and insulated in the learning process, and we cannot be too parochial in our choice of subjects too. To do this would be to have abnormal growth of the mind. Metaphorically speaking, that would cause us to have a very limited and biased understanding of how things work around us. It is no wonder that great men and women of the past who have contributed so much to society and the world have had varied subjects of interest, ranging from science to literature, to music, to the arts. They never shy away from learning and from exploring other fields, even if these had no relevance whatsoever to their own subject of study. A well-informed and well-meaning teacher who has wonderful things to share is an interesting and inspiring teacher to whom many would love to lend their ears to. And many a time, this is when the seeds of learning are sown. Who knows when a word, a phrase, a thought, a fact that drops from the lips of such a teacher take hold of the heartstrings of the student, and he or she goes out into the world and discovers a way to heal a sickness, or invents a tool to make life easier, or tears down walls that keep the needy from life-giving resources. There is much to gain from being to widen one's knowledge and from being willing to share it too. In this edition of the webinar, we are very grateful to have eminent resource persons who will provide for us an opportunity to learn from them. There are issues that have gripped our hearts and our minds in the recent past and for many years till date. There are things that we have taken for granted and are only now beginning to get a sense of how they may actually affect us. There are also discoveries of new ways of enhancing our personal and professional caliber. 4 different sessions, 4 vital subjects in the span of an hour or so. I am convinced that you will have lots of things to take home with you today. The issues that we have brought together today for us to address are those that matter to us in many ways. The fate of migrant workers in a COVID-afflicted world or cross-border conflicts and tensions are real-life issues that will come back to haunt us at many levels and in many ways. While things tend to die their natural death, but there are certain things too that refuses to die at all. At some point or the other, we will have to confront the question that emerge out of these issues, and sadly, we do not have ready-made answers for them. On the one hand, technology is being touted and will be touted in this webinar as a wonderful tool for learning, and it is the present case. On the other, we are being made to realize that having too much of it could be disastrous for us in the long run. As usual, we always end up being caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Perhaps we continue with our learning process. We will be able to find a way to address the challenges that confront us at every turn. On that note, I would like to conclude my opening remarks there. Allow me to reiterate our warm welcome to each one of you once again to our webinar and to the 4 presentations that we are going to have today. Do your best to stay connected in spite of the connectivity and power supply problem. You will not want to miss the presentation. Thank you. God bless. Evermore, better ever.
Thank you so much, brother, once again for an inspiring and insightful welcome address. We are glad to have you here with us. Now, before we begin with our presentation, I would like to inform you that we are live streaming this webinar at this very moment. You can take down the link. It's www.youtube.com/c/value education. That's youtube.com/c/value education. And so at this moment, you can also, if you would like to send your questions or your queries, your comments and your feedbacks, of course, you can do that via the chat box, but you can also email it to VEDU, that's VEDU, VEDU, at anthonys.ac.in. I now have the pleasure of introducing to you our first speaker of the webinar, and I would like to put up his photo and his name on the screen. Coming live, joining us today is Dr. Rakhal Kumar Purkhayasta. He's the head of the Department of Political Science, St. Anthony's College, Shillong, Meghalaya. He will be addressing the Indo-Nepal border dispute. Now, please note that each speaker will be speaking for 30 minutes each. We will not take in any questions, but we will compile all the questions that you have and send it to the resource persons at the end of the webinar, and they will be sending in their answers to us, and we'll be putting it up on our website for you and for anybody else who would like to know the answers to the questions. So over now to Dr. Rakhal Kumar Purkhayasta for his presentation on the Indo-Nepal border dispute. Then later on, we shall be joined by Dr. Shantu Saikia, who will be speaking to us on electropollution, a silent killer. Dr. Shantu Saikia is an assistant professor in the Department of Physics, St. Anthony's College, Shillong, Meghalaya. Following close behind is Dr. Subrata Purkhayasta. She'll be speaking on a reflection on the recent migrant worker crisis in India. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Geography in Nehu, Shillong, Meghalaya. And concluding the session is Ms. Medari Tham, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, St. Anthony's College, Shillong, Meghalaya, and she will be talking about the technical upskilling during lockdown, a first-hand account. So again, you can send your email to vedu@anthonys.ac.in. Questions, feedbacks, any comments you would like to make in detail, you can send it to this particular email ID. Over to you, sir, Dr. Rakal Purkia, sir, for your presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you can be heard clearly and you're also visible.
Okay. On 18th of June 2020, the Nepalese president, Vidya Devi Bhandari, signed for a new map of Nepal. This map was earlier passed by the parliament with an absolute majority. There was not even one vote that went against the map. And this map included new territories. Now, a lot of heat, a lot of emotions was generated. And I thought of investing a bit of time to look into the issue. Primarily, I was interested because I come from a place, my hometown is probably less than a dozen kilometers from the border. And much of my time was spent with the Gorkhas since my father was working with the Gorkhas. And there was so much of, close connection. So that probably was the reason I thought, why not look into the issue? And the result is this talk that I decided for today on the Indo-Nepal border dispute. Now, first we have to see that Nepal is an important neighbor of India and occupies a very special significance in India's policy because of its geographical, historical, cultural, and economic linkages. Both the countries, India and Nepal, share common ties, especially in form of religion, Hinduism and Buddhism. No Hindu pilgrimage is completed without a visit to Pasupatinath temple. And for the Buddhists, it is almost a must to visit Lumbini, which is located in Nepal. The two countries not only share open borders and unhindered movement, but is also very closely connected through marriages and family relations. As our defense minister had said recently, that we are tied with Nepal through roti and beti. We share a border of 1,751 kilometers with Nepal, which extends from Himalaya to Indo-Gangetic plains. Nepal has border with West Bengal, Sikkim, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Uttarakhand. And the longest border is with Uttar Pradesh. The Indo-Nepal
This slide is not being shown.
slide is not. Just
Share screen.
Yeah.
Presentation.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. Sorry for the
Please go to
disruption.
slideshow. Please, can you please go to
yeah.
slideshow?
Slideshow.
Somewhere at the bottom of the screen, you'll be able to find the slideshow somewhere down below.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Next slide.
Is it
yes,
visible
thank you.
now?
Yes, thank you very much.
sorry, uh, the Indo-Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1950 forms a backbone of this spatial relationship. The treaty talks about reciprocal treatment to citizens of both the countries in terms of residence, property, business, and movement. It gives access to Nepal to Indian weaponry. Uh, Nepal, we have to understand, is a very special in a way that it is a buffer state, like Bhutan, between what you call China and India. There are a lot of rivers that originates in Nepal, and we have more than 6,000 streams and river that is a big source of water to India. Nepal is also India's largest trading partner, and we contribute about 30% of the foreign direct investment there. No goods from the third countries can really reach Nepal without crossing India. We provide transit to all the goods from the third country that is sent to Nepal. We also have signed in recent past agreement for sister city, and we find there is what you call Kathmandu, which is tagged with Varanasi. We have Bodh Gaya with Janakpur. So there are 3 cities which we have found they have tied up one with another. There is also a very close defense cooperation between the 2 countries. We help Nepal in terms of weapon, in terms of training, large recruitment of the Gorkha regiment, which probably is one of the strongest regiment of the army, is recruited from the hills of Nepal. We have been also doing every year defense exercise with Nepal by the name of Surya Kiran. India with Nepal also shares multiple what you call multilateral forum, such as BBIN. BBIN is Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal. Then we have BIMSTEC, we have NAM, non-aligned movement, and SALT. And both the countries are part of it. Now, this is the map which has been published by Nepal, which has generated a lot of controversy. And the part in yellow, now this is the disputed territory, Limpudara, Kalapani area, and Lipu Lake Pass. This is the area which has been claimed by Nepal, and it is nearly 373 square kilometer. This again is the map which shows the disputed territory. It's a small territory which has generated so much of controversy. Now, I'll come to this later. Let us see what is the present status of the area claimed by Nepal. Lipu Lake. Now, Lipu Lake is a pass which is located at the height of 17,060 feet, and it is in the state of Uttarakhand, and it connects the Tibetan region of China. The pass is very near to a trading town of Tibet by the name of Taklakot. And this pass has been used since very ancient time by the people who stay there, especially the Bhutias, known as Baniyas. And they used to do trade with Tibet. This pass was also used as a pilgrimage to Kailas Manasarovar. In 1954, India signed agreement with China, and Lipu Lake was considered one of the passes that could be used for trade and pilgrimage traffic. In 1962, we had the Sino, war, 1962 war with China, and we decided to close the pass. It was reopened again in 1992. In 2014, Lipu Lake Pass by an agreement with China, was also declared to be one of the BPM, that is border personal meeting point, where any kind of dispute between the two countries, between the army of the two countries can be resolved. In 2015, Modi had visited China and he had again signed an agreement for trade through the Lipu Lake Pass. Now, the next area that is disputed is a Kalapani, and Kalapani is an area which is basically a valley, and it is around 35 square kilometer. And if you look at the record, from 1830 onward, this part has been shown as a part of Pithoragarh area of the Almora district of what they call Kumaon region. And this area, the Kalapani area, is also source of many of the springs and streams. In 1951, again, when China had occupied Tibet, we increased our security presence in the Kalapani area. In 1950, a border post was set up, which was replaced by Indo-Tibet Border Police in 1979. And there are a lot of army camps there in the area, in the Kalapani area. Probably this area is of much strategic importance because some of the elevation from this area, it rises up to the height of 20,000 feet, and which can become a very good observation post. Now, Limpia Dhora. Now, this is the extreme west of the Kalapani area, and there is a small village called Gunji, and this Gunji serves as a night hole to the pilgrims who make it to Kailas Manasarovar. And Gunji is also very near a stream called Kuti Yangti. Now, Nepal says that Kuti Yangti is a source of Kali River. Now, this is the main dispute. If we go to the earlier map, India says that the source of the Kali River is a spring in Kalapani area, this valley area. But this is not agreed by the Nepalese government, and they say the source is the stream that originates in Lipu Dhura area. Now, naturally, the 373 kilometer you find to the west is this stream. 373 kilometer is the valley that is claimed by Nepal. Now, coming to the what really triggered the dispute. On 30 October 2019, the new union territories of Jammu and Kashmir came into being with the abrogation of Article 370. Naturally, India had to publish a new map to show the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, since now we were to have 28 states and 9 union territory. So 2nd November 2019, India published a new map which showed the bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir. Nepal immediately objected. India had been always showing Kalapani as a part of Uttarakhand, but this time Nepal raised their objection. Nepal said that India's decision was unilateral, and it said that it will some way or the other defend its international borders. India's reaction that was given Ravish Kumar, the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, was that the map accurately reflects the sovereign territory of India, and the new map in no manner revise our boundary with Nepal. Now, the second controversy came up with the inauguration of Darchula-Lipu Lake Road. On May 8, 2020, Sri Rajnath Singh, Defense Minister, remotely inaugurated a stretch of road connecting to Lipu Lake Pass. Now, this road is around 80 kilometers. The Director General of Aviation of India, it refused to give clearance. This road was supposed to reduce the time to for pilgrimage to Kailas Manasarovar, because till this time it used to take 5 days of what you call trekking from Darchula to Lipu Lake to Gunji village. Gunji village is just 5 kilometers short of Lipu Lake Pass. So people used to stay in Gunji, and from Darchula to Gunji, it used to take 5 days. Now the whole journey can be completed in few hours time through light motor vehicle. The terrain is very, very difficult. The road construction could be done only for 5 months because of the elevation, because of the weather condition. And the border road nearly lost 25 heavy machineries in the Kali River, because the road runs on the bank of the Kali River. And, for the first time, India had used the Chinook helicopters, which it got from USA to transport some of the heavy equipment for building this road. This road is of great importance for pilgrimage, because otherwise Kailas Manasarovar trip could be taken either from Nathula, that is in Sikkim, and it used to be 2,780 kilometers from Sikkim, or it could be done through Nepal, which involved a distance of 3,090 kilometers. Not only long, but it was also very expensive. Now, with the construction of this road, the Manasarovar could be reached within a day from Lipu Lake, because from Lipu Lake, there is 5 kilometers of stretch which has to be walked, and from there it is 97 kilometers of road built by China up to Kailas Manasarovar. So this road is also of greater strategic importance for India's defense. Nepal, naturally, like China, objected to this building of the road. The third factor is the government of KP Sharma Oli. KP Sharma Oli was one of the politicians who was very close to India before 2015. In 1999, he resigned from Communist Party of Nepal in protest, a protest against the government, which was not in favor of signing agreement for sharing of water of Kali River. He supported India, and he decided to resign from the government. Later, even as a home minister, he was very, very close to India. He was a frequent visitor to India, and he greatly facilitated the extradition of from India who had crossed over to Nepal. But from 2015 onward, we find there is a sudden change in the stand of KP Sharma Oli. First, it was basically the blockade that was imposed by India in 2015 that really made him anti-India. And now his nationalism can be understood in terms of what he called bashing. He was one of the prime mover of what he called the new constitution, which was submitted to the Nepalese parliament. Under this new constitution, the whole of Nepal was to be divided into 7 unnamed provinces. The understanding was that once the constitution is passed, he will be replacing Susila Koirala of Nepalese Congress as a prime minister. But Koirala decided to challenge him in an election to the parliament, which he believed was at the behest of India. And Oli won the election in 2015 October and became the prime minister. Meanwhile, India had imposed, as I talked earlier, an economic blockade that was never official. Officially, India had not done it. And that created a lot of crisis in Nepal. So it was very uncomfortable for Mr. Oli. In March 2016, he signed an agreement with China, which decided to give him access to 8 dry ports in China and build up railroad from Tibet to China, from Tibet to Nepal, to Kathmandu Valley. Oli also faced challenge in form of what you call revolt by Puspa Kamal Dhamal, who is known as more popularly as Parchan Nanda, and he decided to withdraw his support from the government. It is felt, Oli felt, again, Parchanda was supported by India to rise in revolt against him. Mr. Oli, somewhere or the other, surprised everyone when he came back in 2017 December election with a unified Communist Party and was able to win 2/3 majority, basically on anti-India plank. Now, recently, we find that for handling of COVID crisis and his what you call rhetoric against India has become very, very shrill. In fact, some of his utterances, if we look, he had said that Indian virus is more dangerous than Chinese virus, talking in terms of COVID-19. Even about national anthem, Mr. Oli uttered that the lion in emblem, it depicted Singham Jayate than Satyamaya Jayate. That means it reflects India's hegemonic design. In fact, time and again, he has made a lot of utterances against India. Now, here I have given important years in the history of Nepal. I'll again come back to it. We have to controversy that is there. India has basically 2 controversy. One is in the Limpudhora and Lipulek region, Kalapani area. The other is in Susta in Bihar. That is very small area, around 14,000 hectares or so in the Champaran district of Bihar. But this is the main area of dispute, the Lipulek region. So to trace the origin of this dispute, we have to go into what we call the unification of Nepal, somewhere around 1768 by Prithvi Naran Saha, the ruler of Gorkha kingdom. Gorkha was a small principality in Nepal and decided to capture Kathmandu Valley and unified around 12 kingdoms there and establish what we know as modern Nepal. The name Gorkha is taken from warrior saint of 8th century by the name of Gorakhnath. Still we find temple of Gorakhnath in Gorakhpur. And the present chief minister of UP, Adityanath, is one of the followers of this Gorakhnath temple. He is the head priest of the Gorakhnath temple. From there comes the name, what you call the Gorkha. So Prithvi Narayan Saha, he was from northern, his ancestor came from northern India. Now they established their kingdom in Kathmandu Valley. That was in 1768. In around early 1700, Nepal got into conflict with Tibet. Nepalese troops, they invaded Tibet in 1788 and 1791. Tibet rulers, they appealed to the Qing dynasty in Beijing for help. Immediately, around 70,000 Chinese troops were sent, and they not only defeated the Nepali forces, but also reached near the valley of Kathmandu. Nepal was forced to give up its claim of the Tibetan territory and surrender its trading privilege. And they also had to make some tribute payment to Beijing every 5 years. Nepal basically was imposing a lot of taxes from the goods that were traded from Tibet to India. And naturally, it had to pass through Nepal, and this was the main point of dispute. Now, we find that Nepal was blocked on one side by Tibet, so naturally Nepal turned its attention towards the south. And south, it meant Kumaon, Garhwal, and the areas beyond that. It also turned its attention towards the east, that is Sikkim, and the Tarai region. Now, and again to the south, the Tarai region, because one side was blocked, the Tibetan side, so it decided to expand on the other sides. Meanwhile, the British was also expanding and consolidating its position over India, especially the northern plains between Kolkata and Sikkim. The ruler of Nepal, they refused to establish any kind of trade or diplomatic relations with the British East India Company. And they kept on annexing one state after the another, Kumaon, Garhwal, Dharamsala, and they almost reached up to Punjab when they were challenged by Ranjit Singh. On the Eastern Front, they captured Darjeeling, Sikkim. Darjeeling was a part of Sikkim, and the Tarai region. So at one point, their kingdom stretched from Satluj in the west, because after Satluj they were challenged by Ranjit Singh, to River Tista in the east. And this was a position before the Treaty of Sagoli. Now, the occupation of Tarai, especially the Botwal region is somewhere in the eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, from 1804 to 1812, became the immediate reason for Anglo-Nepalese war in 1840. Lord Hastings declared war on Nepal on November 1, 1840. The East India Company was supported by native kingdom of Garhwal, Patiala, and the kingdom of Sikkim. The company employed around 22,000 soldiers, unknown number of Indian sepoys, and 60 cannons in the war. The Nepalese side had an army of around 11,000, and it was basically fought by the Thapa clan. The war, there was an intense war. The war lasted almost 7 months, and the company lost around 3,000 lives. Another 2,000 again was lost due to sickness and desertation. The company was victorious in this war, and Treaty of Sagoli was concluded. Sagoli is a place in Champaran. And under this treaty, Nepal had to give up its territory of Kumaon, Garhwal, Dharamsala, and the entire areas it had captured in the west. In the east, it had to give up Sikkim. In the south, it had to give up Tarai. And British, during this period, after this Treaty of Sagoli got all the important hill station, Dharamsala, Nainital, Simla, Darjeeling, all these hill stations were acquired by the British from Nepal by this Treaty of Sagoli. Now, Treaty of Sagoli fixed River Kali as a boundary on the western front and River Mechi as the new eastern frontier of Nepal. Nepal lost nearly 1/3 of its area. In addition, Nepal was also supposed to have British resident located in Kathmandu. This is the area I'm showing. The red is the present Nepal. And if you look, the areas that has been lost, it is in dots, black dots. In this line, you find the areas that were under the British influence. So the areas on the eastern side, Sikkim, Duars, all this area. On the southern side, many of the plains that it had occupied. And on the western side, the areas up to Himachal Pradesh had to be given up. Now, what is the India's position in this dispute? India says the Treaty of Sagoli, 1816, ratified on 4th of March, 1816, it defines River Kali as a boundary between India and Nepal. This River Kali in Uttarakhand, in Nepal, it is known as Mahakali. In the plains, it is known as Sarda. So the same river. And it says, the Treaty of Sagoli says that territories to the east of River Kali is Nepal and to the west is the Indian territory. The Treaty of Sagoli, it does not talk about the source of the river. But India maintains that the source of river is in the springs, number of primary order streams and springs which are in the valley of Kalapani, much below the Lipu Lake Pass, And though the treaty does not make any mention about the source, but nevertheless, the source is in the Kalapani region. And it also quotes the correspondence that was made by Mr. Gardiner, the first British resident in Kathmandu, who between February and October 1817 wrote a number of letters to Nepal Darbar pointing out that the source is in the springs of Kalapani. The administrative and revenue record from 1830 also suggests that Kalapani has always remained a part of the Kumaon district and naturally is a part of India. They point to survey of map that was made in 1856 and 1879, the survey that was done. There is some writing also which says the British were interested in not giving up the Kalapani and Lipu Lake and this area because of the heights, because they had the tactical advantage of overseeing things happening in Tibet. Tibet was an area of special interest to the British. Then again, if we look at 1954 trade agreement between India and China, it makes no mention of Nepal, which declares Lipu Lake as the trading point between India and China. Again, in 1961, King Mahendra signed a boundary agreement with China, and this boundary agreement makes Tinker Pass, which is around 10 kilometers south of Lipu Lake Pass, the tri-junction between India, Nepal, and China. And it is also taken as a border between China and Nepal. The border pillar number 1 is erected on this Tinker Pass. Earlier, Tinker Pass was also used as trading point besides the Lipu Lake Pass. And Tinker Pass today is in Nepal. The trade agreement again of 1993 and 2015 between India and China makes Lipu Lake the trading point between the two countries without any mention of Nepal. India points out that even if we take 1816, that Limpio Dhara is what you call the tributary. So naturally that area which was never true, never given by the British, even if we take this, then Nepal was returned so much of territory after 1816, the line that was drawn for as a reward for assisting the British in suppressing the Sepoy mutiny of 1857. If we look at Sepoy mutiny, Jang Bahadur Rana, who was the de facto ruler, because in 1848, the Rana dynasty, Rana were supposed to be the prime minister, but some way through a palace coup, they took over the power and they became the de facto ruler of Nepal. They were basically from the house of Sisodia in Rajasthan. And the Sahas were converted into nominal monarchy till 1950. So in 1858, Jang Bahadur Rana sent more than 3,500 troops to Awadh to crush the revolt in Lucknow. Later, he himself came with a large reinforcement of more than 10,000 and helped the British to suppress the mutiny. Some of the mutineers, they escaped to Tarai and they were thinking of waging guerrilla warfare. And since the mutineers had a lot of affinity with the people of Tarai, they were giving them shelter. And Rana did not want to make his own people hostile, so he invited the British to take hold of the rebels in Tarai. But when the British reached, they could not do much because they were not very acquainted with the terrain. And they requested Rana, ultimately in November 1859, the Rana went personally to Tarai and either killed or captured those who had participated in the mutiny. And the British were very, very happy, and they started recruiting a large number of Gorkhas into British Indian Army. In fact, British Indian Army, even after the Nepalese War, Anglo-Nepal War in 1815, Sir David Ochterlony, he decided to form the first King George's own Gorkha rifle. And by the time of independence, as we all know, 10 Gorkha regiments were formed. 6 of them, they have remained with India, whereas 4 of them have been taken over by the British. The Indians also point out that there was effort recently, in last 1 month, by the Nepalese government to set up armed patrolling in the area, police outposts, and this was resented by the local population. And finally, if we look, we have more than 200 years of recorded presence in the area. Now, what is the Nepal's position? Nepal's position is that river Kali, it starts from a stream in Limpio Dhora. And it says naturally, Limpio Dhora is the furthest point in the valley. So the entire valley, the Kalapani Valley, including the Lipu Lake Pass, falls to the east of the river and is part of the Nepal province in the district of Darchula. Now, under the International Convention, the stream which carries the largest volume of water or the stream which has the longest course carries the name of the main river. And we find that the spring which originates in Kalapani area, they are the minor one. The major one is in Limpudhara. So that should be taken as a source of river Kali. But here again a bit of controversy. If we look Ganga, then the origin is believed to be Gangotri. But then Bhagirathi, the stream, discharges the largest volume of water. So under the international convention, that the Bhagirathi should be the main origin point of the Ganga. But according to the religious belief, it is Gangotri. The same is in case of Kali River, Mahakali River. They believe that the springs that arises, these are sacred, worshipped for a long time, and they are the source of Kali River. Nepal says that it has been raising up the issue from 1960 onward. In 1980, India had set up a joint technical level boundary working group with Nepal to fix the boundary between the two countries. This committee has fixed and resolved everything except the Kalapani and Susta dispute. This issue was also discussed by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and BP Koirala in 2000, and both the side decided they will resolve all the outstanding issue by 2002, but nothing much has been done. Again in 2014, when Modi made one of the first visit to Nepal, he said a foreign secretary level meeting will be held regarding this Kalapani and Susta area, but nothing much has happened. In 2016, eminent person group was constituted to find out ways of resolving this dispute. The eminent person group has submitted its report in 2018, but Modi still does not find time to look into the report. This is what the Nepal said. In December 2019, Modi went to the extent of cancelling the visit of Mr. Oli's envoy to New Delhi. Nepal feels that India is not acting as a close neighbor, as a good friend, but naturally the role of India has been more in form of bully. They point to what you call the blockade that was imposed in 1989 by Rajiv Gandhi government, and again repeated, no lessons learned, and repeated by Modi's government in 2015. Now, what is the way out of the crisis? It is a very difficult issue. It is a very emotional issue, but problems cannot be solved on the basis of emotions. A problem has to be solved rationally. And the way forward of this crisis is to have more engagement on the part of Nepal, on part of India. Naturally, India is a bigger country, with the political classes in Nepal, as well as with business community and youths. We have almost 3,000 scholarship that is given to the students from Nepal. A lot of Indian business houses are in Nepal. There is a big presence of Indian in the service sector. So it is time that we engage with all classes in Nepal, because if we look at it, China cannot replace India, because no doubt they have 1400 kilometer boundary with Nepal, but terrain is so difficult that probably we cannot have a good communication. And India and Nepal has been for generations friends together, and we have shared everything together. So naturally, China, in spite of all its ambition, cannot really replace India's role in Nepal. Manjeet Singh Puri, the last Indian diplomat, that means he was there up to December, He said, our effort must be focused on the well-being of the people. We must encourage cross flow of people, goods, and services, along with investment and our long cultural ties. There are nearly 6 million Nepalis who are working in India, and we have to encourage more people to come work and make their livelihood in the country. Similarly, Nepal has to encourage more Indians to go there and do business. We find large Indian investment today, even in the tourism sector of Nepal. And it is in the interest of both India and Nepal that this relationship is kept not only stable but vibrant at the level of the people. Even today, we find there is a large support for India in Nepal. People to people contact is absolutely good. It is only the government probably they are facing this kind of difficult situation. Otherwise, even during this time of COVID, there has been no disruption in trade to Nepal. In fact, few days back, India has signed a memorandum of understanding to finance the construction of additional sanitation facilities in the Pasupatinath temple complex. This was agreed by Modi earlier. And India has to appreciate that a secure and stable Nepal is in the best interest of our country. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very insightful presentation. We've received a lot of requests to keep you on and to allow you more time. And it is, in fact, very relevant to our present day situation, considering the recent skirmishes in Galawan Valley. The Indo-Nepal relationship will require a fresh look and definitely a proper understanding of the underlying issues. And as you have suggested, the way out of this crisis is by re-examining our ties and keeping our ties stronger. Thank you very much, sir, for a very insightful and very, very meaningful presentation. We have gone beyond the 30 minutes, but we know that this is a very important issue and we need to discuss this at length. And we are very grateful to Dr. Rakul Pukriyasta for his presentation. So right now over to Dr. Santu Saikia for his presentation on pollution and the dangers that they may pose to us in the modern world, where we are surrounded by technologies, by digital gadgets, by electronic gadgets, I mean to say, and by the digital media. So we will take a look at electro pollution, a silent killer. Is it really true, or is it something else? Over to you, Dr. Santu Saikia, for your presentation.
I'm sharing my screen. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, sir, and you're visible. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the organizers for this opportunity given to me to present my talk before you. A very good morning to all the participants of this webinar. After that very interesting first talk by Dr. R.K. Purkayastha, I'll take you into a totally different domain, far away from politics, of course, but something which is of interest and very relevant to the present times and is a thing of concern. So the topic that I have chosen for today is electropollution, a silent killer. You can see the question mark and the exclamation in the title. That is not without reason, because we are not sure till today whether electropollution is a silent killer. And if it turns out to be one, it will be really dangerous for us. Starting on that note, I am Dr. Santu Saikia, Associate Professor of the Department of Physics, St. Anthony's College, Shillong. Electropollution, by the way, is not my topic of research. I work in the field of nonlinear dynamics and stochastic processes. But this is a topic which has interested me because of its relevance in our day-to-day life. And my talk is based on extensive reading that I have done, and what I will present before you is what I have understood and what I have learned. Just a disclaimer right at the beginning. I'm not trying to prove anything or disprove anything. Just I want to spread some awareness about something about which most of us we are not even aware of. So let's start in my journey along with you. So what is pollution? Before talking about electropollution, we need to understand what is pollution. Actually, I had made some animations, but because of some technical snag, I had to go for the PDF version. Anyway, the content remains the same. Is the contamination of the natural environment by substances harmful to living organisms. And most of the pollution that we see all around us is because of human beings. As you can see in the pictures, you have air pollution, land pollution, water pollution, light pollution also is an issue. Then we have noise pollution. All these pollutions that I have shown here are ones that we can feel, we can see, and we can experience. But presently, what has happened is because of the COVID-19 induced lockdown, everybody is saying that the pollution levels globally has reduced. And past few months, we have been very active in social media, and might be most of you have seen these photographs. You have seen the earth is healing itself, stay at home. Some photographs were going around, they were saying the earth is rebooting, the planet is rebooting. And this is a picture of which shows the air pollution levels in Delhi. This is the India Gate, and you can see this is October 30, 2018, and this is March 30, 2020. Both the pictures superimposed. You can see the level of air pollution has reduced drastically. And this third picture is from NASA. Their supercomputers have generated. It shows the air pollution level over India before the lockdown and after lockdown. This is 2019 and this is 2020. PM 2.5 means the particulate matter of size 2.5 micrometers or less. Clearly, we can see that the air pollution has reduced. But question is that all? Has all the pollution reduced? Now, there is a kind of pollution which we call as electropollution, something which is invisible. It's nothing but the increasing levels of electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere. It seems a bit technical, but as my audience is very general in nature, I will try to keep it as non-technical as possible. Electro has something to do with electricity, electric fields, and electromagnetic means electricity and magnetism together. Wherever there is an electric field, there will be a magnetic field. So electromagnetic energy is a form of energy which is associated with electric and magnetic fields. So it propagates in the form of electromagnetic waves. Rather, this energy is radiated from the source in the form of electromagnetic waves. So all these terms, electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic waves, these are analogous to one another. Electromagnetic waves we have come across many times, probably knowingly or unknowingly. The sunlight is a form of electromagnetic waves. Probably most of us has never thought of it like that. If I tell you that light is a combination of an electric field and a magnetic field, which is varying with time and propagating, you may be surprised, but indeed it is so. Sunlight is a form of electromagnetic wave. It's not the only kind of electromagnetic waves that is there. Different other types of electromagnetic waves are there. What is the difference between all these types of waves is the frequency and the energy, which defines the type of waves. So what we have is something called the electromagnetic spectrum. There is a broad range of frequency and energy among these electromagnetic waves. So in this picture, I show you the electromagnetic spectrum. So this also may seem a bit technical to people who are not from science background or from physics background, but I'll try to simplify it. On the right-hand side, these radiations are energetic gamma rays. You can follow my mouse. These are X-rays, ultraviolet rays. Then this part is visible, only part of the electromagnetic spectrum that we human beings can see. Then comes the infrared radiations, microwaves, and radio waves. So what is happening here is energetic, lesser energetic this side. Lesser frequency, higher frequency. So you can see here extremely low frequency radiations. So these energetic radiations, gamma rays comes from radioactive sources. X-rays, when we go to the hospital, usually we come across X-rays in diagnostics. Ultraviolet rays, sun produces ultraviolet rays. I remember the sunscreen lotions that we keep to protect us from ultraviolet rays. Then the infrared radiations. These are some radiations, night vision cameras they use, the remote controls, they use this. That effort. Nowadays, the thermal guns that we talk about, they use this. Microwaves we use in a kitchen. It's not the name of the device rather, it's the electromagnetic waves that are being generated inside. Then radio waves, we use this for telecommunication. So these are non-ionizing, means they are lesser energetic. They can't induce any direct impact in the living cells. Ionizing radiations, they can cause burns, just like in a nuclear explosion. So one point to make here is all the electromagnetic radiations below a frequency of 300 hertz, these are all man-made. You can see computer, TV broadcast, radio, power lines, etc. So let's go ahead. So electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere, which we are interested in, can be of different origins. We have something called the cosmic background radiation. This is nothing but an all-encompassing radiation in the universe, which is there everywhere. You can't escape from that. The theory is that it's a remnant of the Big Bang in which our universe originated. These are weak microwave electromagnetic radiations in the microwave frequency. That apart, the Earth's atmosphere has lots of charges. This second picture that I'm showing, it has lots of charges because of different activities like lightning, etc. There is an upper layer of the Earth's atmosphere from a height of around 75 kilometers. We call it the ionosphere. Between the ionosphere and the surface, there are some electromagnetic waves that are being shown in this picture. They have a frequency of around 7.83 hertz. Hertz means these are vibrations per second. This is the second source I'm talking about, natural source. Then the sun, of course, all of us know. It emits visible light. It falls on the earth, and the earth re-radiates in the infrared. Apart from these sources, natural sources, we have terrestrial sources like the radioactive sources, cosmic rays. These are rays which are charged particles which are bombarding our Earth's atmosphere from outer space. Then the Van Allen bells, astronomical objects like neutron stars, pulsars. We need not understand what are these for the purpose of my talk, but just what I want to place here is that there are many natural sources of electromagnetic radiations, and living organisms and living beings, they have lived in perfect harmony with all these types of radiation. For a simple example, these radiations that I talked about here, 7.83 hertz, it was discovered by a German physicist, Winfried Otto Schumann. They have a frequency of around 7.83 hertz. And interestingly, our brain, alpha waves of our brain also have the same frequency. That simply shows the harmony between the existing natural sources of radiation and the living beings. But the problem is with the artificial sources of electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere. Since the discovery of electric current and the invention of different electrical devices and electronic devices, all these devices, they emit electromagnetic energy with different frequencies. As you can see, electrical appliances, computer monitors, they emit with this frequency. Power lines with this frequency. Electrical wires, also they emit electromagnetic radiation, very low frequency. the radio waves, television, air traffic controller, cordless phones, remote controls, mobile phones. You can see the frequency is increasing. Wi-Fi modems, microwave applications, microwaves, ovens in our kitchens. They have a frequency of around 2.5 gigahertz. And Wi-Fi modems also operate in the same frequency. Just to point out, anything that we can imagine that runs with electricity produces radiation. So what is the result? Non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation of very low frequency are all man-made. And over the past few decades, rampant proliferation of mobile telephony and other wireless technologies over the past few decades has led to an exponential increase in the electromagnetic energy density of the atmosphere. There is a huge increase in the number of mobile subscribers and the number of base transceiver stations. These are nothing but the mobile towers that we talk about. As per the Department of Telecommunication data, January 2020, there are about 1.1 billion subscribers in India and projected about 1.2 million mobile towers in 2020. So, as we are moving ahead, there is development of newer and newer mobile technologies. In 1981, starting from 1G, we have reached a stage we are talking about in 2020, 5G. We are very happy with that. We are climbing higher up in the technological ladder. But what is increasing is the speed of data transfer. It's increasing, but with that, the prices have come down and resulting into the increase of the number of mobile subscribers and the number of mobile towers that happened. Higher the frequency of, higher the G, higher is the frequency of the electromagnetic radiations that are being employed. For example, 5G will operate with a frequency of around 3 to 30 gigahertz. The world is slowly becoming wireless. People are even talking about 6G and 7G. Presently, we have WWW, the World Wide Web. We are going into the World Wide Wireless Web, the 4Ws. As a result, this has given rise to a new kind of pollution, which is invisible, colorless, and odorless. So many people are saying electropollution is the 21st century catastrophe. Or is it so? We have to think of it. Let me put a simple example. Our microwave ovens, they operate with a frequency of around 2.4 to around 2.5 gigahertz. And our wireless routers also operate with the same frequency. Now, if you put a cup of water inside the microwave, within minutes, it will boil. And our brains, they have 75% of water. So you know what I'm coming to. If I stand near a wireless router, will my brain boil? Serious question. But then, presently, I can say no. Why? Because the microwave emits energy around 100 watts. The power is different. But for a Wi-Fi router, it's 1/100th of that. It's 100 times less. But if we are exposed for long duration, might be there will be some effect. You can't deny that. So simply it means electropollution is very real. There are concerns that are being raised on the possible impact on living beings, particularly humans. Of course, there are many arguments and counter-arguments. Nothing is conclusive till now. There's lots of research is being done in this field. Most of the research supported by governmental organizations negate the effects of this. They say it does not affect for reasons best known to them. Organizations and regulatory bodies are coming up with recommendations and regulations. Lots of research publications and articles can be found. There are court litigations also. Here I'm showing you just a snapshot of some of the publications that I have gone through, I have found. These are in reputed journals: Biological Effects from Electromagnetic Field Exposure and Public Exposure Standards, Mobile Phone Radiation Causes Brain Tumors, should be classified as a probable carcinogen 2A, Biological Effects of Cell Tower Radiation in Human Body. And you can see all these has to do living dangerously in Indian cities, a RF radiation perspective, study being done in Delhi. This also is in Delhi, in Jalandhar. There are studies being done in Bangalore. In the big cities, studies are being done. But what about Shillong? What about smaller cities, smaller towns? What about the rural areas? What is happening over there? There are court litigations as well. November 2012, the High Court of the state of Rajasthan ordered the removal of all cell towers from the vicinity of schools, colleges, hospitals, and playgrounds. Mobile towers are harmless, says a declassified CPCB report, Central Pollution Control Board report, in December 27, 2018. This was declassified after a ruling from the Supreme Court. However, the report does admit that non-thermal effects of radiation are being ignored. Supreme Court orders shutting down BSNL mobile tower in Gwalior. A 42-year-old domestic help, it was there in the news recently, 42-year-old domestic help, he appealed to the Supreme Court that he has got a form of cancer, lymphoma, on being exposed to radiation from a tower which was set up in 2002 in his neighbor's building. And the court ordered the shutting down of the tower. There are over 25,000 articles in the past 30 years. So presently, the situation is such, it's all chaos out there. Nobody is sure what is the way out. Does it affect? Does it not affect? But we have to be on an alert. We have to think about it. So let's go ahead to see the effects of electropollution. Earlier, the exposure to electromagnetic radiations was localized to towers, to transmission stations, to radar installations. But now it is everywhere. Even all of us, probably presently also, we are carrying cell phones in our pockets. It has entered our bedrooms. We are keeping our Wi-Fi routers inside our bedrooms to get proper connectivity. But lots of concern is there about the possible impacts, more so it being invisible. The effects can be better understood by categorizing them. Physiological effect of ionizing radiations, no doubt about it. Ionizing radiations impacts our body directly. You can't go and get exposed to ionizing radiations like gamma rays. These are used, say if you go to Bibura Cancer Institute for some treatment, phototherapy, they use this kind of ionizing radiations, very highly energetic radiations. But there may be certain physiological effects due to non-ionizing radiations also, lesser energetic radiations. Can be thermal effects, which directly heat up the cells and tissues, or it can be non-thermal effects due to the interaction of electromagnetic radiations with the cells. So the possible health hazards, they have been classified into different types. Electromagnetic hypersensitivity among people exposed to extremely low frequency electromagnetic radiation. The WHO, World Health Organization, says that around 1 to 3% of the world population suffers from this. EHS, they call it EHS, suffers from this. It can have different manifestations, feeling of dizziness, feeling of nervousness, anxiety, etc. There can be cytotoxic and genotoxic effects. I can't make it a biology class. Life science people will understand it better. But as a physicist, what I simply understand is cytotoxic means toxic to the cells, harm to the living cells, and toxic to the genetic materials. Effects on the nervous system. Many research has been done in this on the possible effects on the nervous system. Our nervous system is nothing but the brain, and the signals that it sends. And all these signals, by the way, are electrical signals. And when it experiences electromagnetic fields, no doubt there will be some interaction. There will be some effect. And EMF and cancer risks. This is a big issue. Just recently, the International Association for Research in Cancer, WHO organization, classified EMFs as a possible carcinogen 2B category, possible that it causes cancer. Then effects on the endocrine system. Endocrine system is a system in our body which produces the hormones. So if I remember the film by Munna Bhai MBBS, many of us have seen Chemical Locha. There was a thing over there. It can induce that in our bodies, leading to many other effects on the metabolism of our body. Effects on the cardiovascular system, the heart-related effects. Heart also, it works on the signals that it receives, and these are electrical signals. A simple example is the pacemaker that we install. If our heart works a bit less, what is a pacemaker? It's nothing but a simple device to trigger the heart. It induces electrical signals. And the effects on the reproductive system. This also is there. Studies are going on. Rising cases of male infertility has been related to the cell phones that are being kept in the pockets, but it's not conclusive. Most of the studies are survey-based till now and on animal subjects. And if any effects are there, it will be long-term effects. Effects will be seen after long term. So that makes it a problem to study, but studies are going on, no doubt. So this is a simple photograph that I'm putting before you. This is what is infrared thermal imaging. If our bodies are hot, temperature is more, it emits infrared radiations. So this is before cell phone use, and this is after 15 minutes of cell phone use. The heat generated, the amount of radiation has increased. No doubt there is an increase in temperature. Sometimes we may feel after talking in the cell phone for a long time, our ears, they get heated up literally. So that is the situation. And children absorb 10 times more microwave radiation because their skulls are thin and the tissues are soft. So the possible health hazards in a nutshell, in simple terms, not in technical terms, it can be headaches and migraines, eye irritations and cataracts, loss of appetite, fatigue and exhaustion, giddiness or dizziness, anxiety and depression, fluctuation in blood pressure, altered concentration and memory loss, sleep disruption or insomnia, and long-term effects can be tumor, Alzheimer, Parkinson's disease, eye cancer, epilepsy, leukemia, lymphoma, nervous disorders, hormonal imbalance, DNA damage, infertility, and the list goes on. Children, pregnant women, weak or sick persons are said to be more vulnerable. I have kept a term here, possible health effects. Why? Because we are not sure. Many times after working with our computer for a long time, we may feel some sort of dizziness, and we may just think that it is because of the stress. Is it because of the radiation from the system? Nobody knows. Nothing is conclusive. Some studies are contradictory and not corroborated by independent research till now. There is a lack of understanding of the causal mechanism. There exist gaps in existing knowledge, but the threat can't be ignored. It's there. Studies are going on. In words of Martin Luther King Jr., our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So this is something which matters to us, and we can't just stop thinking about it and stop being aware about it. As a result, the government and the different world organizations, they have realized the importance of this. So the WHO launched an international EMF project in the year 1996 to look into the possible effects of radiation, to find out ways and means to mitigate the concerns that are being raised, to look into the existing literature and to promote further studies. Then the Bioinitiative report 2012, it was updated in 2014 and 2017. Scientists, around 29 scientists working in this field from different countries, they came together to look into the existing studies. And what they concluded is that the regulations being set up by different governments, it's not enough to mitigate the health risk. But many governmental organizations have raised questions about this, saying that it is biased. All these websites I have given, anyone interested can go through it. There are many regulatory bodies. The International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, it was established in 1992. It is a group which is scientific in nature, non-political, scientific in nature. They give out recommendations on the level of radiation that should be there. And almost all the governments worldwide, they take the ICNIRP regulations as a basis to frame their own regulations. The Federal Communications Commission of the USA. In India is the Department of Telecommunications, Government of India, in collaboration with the Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Environment and Forest, and under the DOT, we have something called the Telecom Enforcement and Resource Monitoring, the term cells. They are the ones responsible to go around the country and conduct audits and find out whether the radiation levels and regulations are being obeyed. Earlier, it was called the Vigilance Telecom Monitoring Cells. It was established in 2004, renamed the term in 2008. So these are the accepted radiation levels, ICNIRP norms, 4.5 for a frequency of 900 megahertz, 4.5 watt per square centimeter. In India, DOT has revised it to 0.45, it's 1/10th of the international norms. Almost all these three categories, you can see India has accepted 1/10th of the international norms. And compared to America, India's level is very, very less. That may make us feel happy, but looking into this table, I get more confused. Why? Because does it mean that people from different ethnicity, different countries, they have different danger levels? It can't be so. The only thing that I understand from this is that the effects of electromagnetic radiation is not at all well understood. As a result, different countries have different norms. So that makes it a problem. So the SAR limit, as can be seen here, when you go to buy a mobile phone, rarely we look into the manual, but something called SAR is written over there, specific absorption rate. How much do our bodies absorb electromagnetic energy from the radiation? In India, again, it is less than the international norm. But the DOT and governmental organizations are responsible for implementing it. And knowing the way governmental organizations work in India, it keeps us open to questions. For, I have a list here. This is taken from Department of Telecommunication website. The number of base transceiver stations, in common language, the mobile towers, found exceeding radiation limits. In 2013, it's 72, 14, 24, 2015, different states, 12. I don't see Meghalaya here. Whether the audit was done here, I'm not sure. Then in 2016, it shows nil. Maybe we'll be happy thinking about it, but actually what is the reason for this is the term, they conducted an audit in 2016, and around, I have shown only a part of it. This is in the website of DOT. They found more than 200 BTS, which were violating norms, and action was taken. They were either penalized or they were issued show cause notices, or some of them were shut down. But the problem here is I have never heard of any such audit being done in rural areas. As because we can't set up too many BTS, most of the BTS in rural areas, they pump up their radiation levels so that the coverage is more. So most of these maybe, I doubt, are urban specific. So in India, the Department of Communication is one agency we have to look forward to. If you go into their website, they have put up a report, A Journey for EMF. It's a report on the existing studies and understanding on the effect of EMF on human health and the existing norms and guidelines. Also, it highlights on the steps taken by DOT to mitigate the concerns, generating public awareness. It contains a comprehensive review of various guidelines, and all the links are there in this website. But in India, ironically, most of the things remain in pen and paper. Implementation becomes a problem. So the questions remain open. In conclusion, lots of existing literature on EMFs, not sufficient to reach concrete conclusions. However, many studies with appropriate methodologies, they reflect their capability to cause adverse health effects. And most of these studies, by the way, are being done on animal subjects. On human beings, whatever studies are being done are survey-based. And slight changes in the experimental conditions can lead to changes in the result. Effects are not understood. How microwaves they react or the electromagnetic radiations they interact with our cells, it's not understood. So there is a need for a comprehensive and well-coordinated scientific investigation. Effects of ionizing EMFs are well studied, but the effects of non-ionizing EMFs are still very blurry. The lower frequency electromagnetic waves. Of course, even we are using technology right now. I am using my Wi-Fi router to give this presentation. That is the irony behind. We can't avoid technology. We have to live with it, but we have to use it wisely to mitigate their dangers. So what is the way forward? We have to take precautions. What precautions can we take? Regulate your cell phone use. Can we do that? Of course, we can. We can regulate the Jacob. We can regulate it. It's not that we need to use it for talking for half an hour or 1 hour at a stretch. That is the regulation I'm talking about. Use it as a utility device. Keep your cell phone away from your body. If in 15 centimeter distance will matter, as per somewhere I have read it, you using your Bluetooth headphone won't help because it will add to the radiation. Use the wired earphone devices. That should help. Turn your cell off or put it in airplane mode at night. Don't use it as a clock at night. We can put it off. Turn off the Wi-Fi at night. Yesterday, I was so much worried about the presentation, thinking about it, I forgot to put it off. So in the morning, I was smiling at myself. So protect and educate your kids and teens on the, how to use and proper use. As I usually tell in the class, be smart in using your smartphones. You have to be smart in using your smartphones. Switch off your wireless home appliances. Not always, when not in use. When you are using a microwave for the matter, stay some distance from the microwave. There are different meters available in Amazon, available everywhere we can buy. We can measure the level of radiation. There are videos in YouTube you can see. If you put it near a microwave which is on, it shows high levels of radiation. A microwave should not leak, but it leaks. I have one at home. I've tried that, it leaks. Connect with the Earth's electrical charge. If our charges are building up in our body, we can walk barefoot. We like walking with fancy shoes and slippers, etc. But then walking barefoot, sometimes it helps. The excess charge building up in our bodies will go to ground. Move your bed away from EMF sources. It is okay if we are not connected for at least 8 hours at night. We can not have a Wi-Fi routers in our bedrooms. from the EMF sources, we can keep it away. Utilize EMF protection devices. Many things, such things are there in the market. You can shield yourself from this. I have never tried one, of course, but you can shield. Shields are available. Unplug electrical devices when unused. When they're plugged in, they emit radiations. So these are some of the references that I have gone through. There are about 25,000 articles from the data that I have seen over the past 30 years. It's all chaos out there, as I told you. But these are some which I have gone through. There are reviews, interesting reviews that are there. I went through around 36 references for preparing this presentation. Videos are there in YouTube. You can go through it. So what best I can say is, I'm not saying we should not use technology. We should use it, but we can use it wisely. Stay safe. Thanks for your patient listening.
Thank you very much. So we've had a very interesting and very well-researched presentation. So from rumblings and along the physical border, we are now being taken to an invisible um, world where we are all immersed in radiation rays, in all these threats that are coming from our devices that we thought will help to make our life even better, our lives even better. We now learn that they could be posing threats to our lives, and we need to be very, very careful. So thank you so much, Dr. Santu Saikia, for your well-researched presentation. We have definitely learned a lot of things from you today. And I can already see on the chat box, many people are saying that they will be switching off their Wi-Fi tonight, and they will be keeping their phones away from themselves. So that is something that really good that is taking place right now, and people are learning and people are receiving your presentation really well. We've also had very good feedbacks on the Indo-Nepal border conflict. The discussion that Professor Dr. Rakhal has presented to us this morning. And there are a lot of people are also highlighting some of the causes of the border conflict, and they have also appreciated the well-presented session given by Dr. Rakhal Purkiasa. So I am really sure that we will get a lot of questions and a lot of feedback on our emails. So, but for now, I'm gonna turn over to Dr. Shubrata Purkiasa, who will be talking about the recent migrant crisis in India. And this is something that is another issue that is causing a lot of concern for many people and have caused a lot of concern for people and for the government, for several state governments in India. So over to you, ma'am, for your presentation on the migrant crisis in India.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible and you're visible. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank St. Anthony's College for inviting me for this presentation. I'm basically teaching in geography in our university here, Northeastern Hill University. And this is, what I have tried to say is that it's basically a reflection on the recent internal migration crisis, which we are experiencing. And actually the administration, I feel, did not understand that such a big group of migrants are internal migrants are there. We were always giving more weightage to the external migrants. We were bringing in the international migrants. And then with the lockdown, this mass migration started. So I would basically try to, explain this. Why is it so that the administration was taken aback, and what can we do for them? Okay, so this migration problem which we are facing today, it's not that we did not experience it before. The first phase of this mass migration was felt when India had its independence in 1947. And this was at the cost of the partition of the country into India and Pakistan, causing more than 14 millions to flee, crossing over the newly created international border. At that time, the migrants comprised of all sections of society, and they were fleeing from home as per their religious composition. In history, I mean, this is a recorded history that such great mass migration within such a short period had never happened. Now, after 70 years of freedom, we are again experiencing a second phase of internal migration. This is internal, from the developed urban centers to rural areas and the underdeveloped part of our country. Here, the migrants, mainly comprising of unskilled and semi-skilled labor force. So the population composition is changing, fleeing from their workplace towards their home. Now, the COVID-19, I feel, has been an eye-opener to the disparity in the process of the development, creating two spaces within India, a dynamic, growth-oriented India and a slow-paced, less developed India. Uh, it is also suggestive of our socio-economic gap, where about a quarter of our population, around 22%, that's what the 2011 census says, are poor people surviving on $1 a day. In spite of our achievement as the fifth largest economy of the world, we have not been able to deliver an inclusive development. And this is why our rank in the Human Development Index is as low as 129th. So this is something to ponder about. Then let us look into the development process. You know, after independence from 1950s onwards, we have given a lot of weightage to the economic development of the country. And this started with the 5-year plan programs. By 60s and 70s, the economic growth of India was so slow that the country was emerging as a unique case of economic failure. During the same period, the Southeast Asian countries also started the development process, but they were going much ahead than India. And it was during this time that, you know, our demographic growth was very high. Uh, if you look into, the history, you will find that India is one of the first countries in the world to implement population control measures. Yet, every decade, we added to the population numbers as our demographic growth was high. The economic growth was as low as 3.5, often taunted as the Hindu growth rate, while the decadal growth rate was as high as 21.51% in 1961, increasing to 24.80% by 1971 census. We had so many approaches to control it, but we were unsuccessful. Thus, there was a mismatch between population growth and the economic growth, pushing the country towards the vicious cycle of poverty. Uh, Now, the next phase changed the economy of the country as the balance of payment crisis in the late 80s led to the economic reforms and paved in liberalization. Since then, the country reported more than 6% GDP growth. In the demographic front, for the first time after independence, India recorded a decadal growth rate of 24.66, a slight fall. That suggests that India is growing at a slower rate. And this every successive year is coming down. It is quite good, but we will grow because we have a youthful population. This brought hope that the country would achieve and maintain high GDP growth, stabilize its population, and the benefits would reach to the lowest strata of the society, bringing in an inclusive growth. Unfortunately, after 2 decades of economic reforms, the trickle-down effect, which has been discussed by Middle in his Asian drama, is yet to be realized in our country. And post-liberalization has been accompanied by rising social and spatial inequalities. Uh, I was just looking through, certain reports, and this caught my attention. This is a report from Oxfam study, and it suggests that 10% of the India's population holds 77% of our national wealth. So you can understand the gap between the rich and the poor. 73% of the wealth generated in 2017 went to the richest 1% of the population, while 67 million Indians are poor, and about half of the poor population saw only 1% increase in their wealth. There are around 119 billionaires, and their number is increasing. Between 2018 and 2022, it is estimated that 70 new millionaires are being added, almost, at per month maybe. The billionaire fortunes are increasing by almost 10 times over the last decade, and the total wealth is higher than the entire union budget of the fiscal year 2018-19. Many ordinary Indians do not have access to the healthcare facilities as they are very expensive. We have very world-class hospitals, but it's very expensive. Most of us cannot afford it. This disparity in the development process also gets reflected in space as rural and urban differentiation. Within the rural, there is an intra-rural and inter-rural differentiation. A village in Punjab cannot be compared to a village, say, in remote Bihar. Or there is an inter-urban and intra-urban differentiation. There is an intra-district and intra-district differentiation, as well as interstate and intrastate differentiation. A visit to any major urban center of the country suggests how space gets divided into posh areas, housing the rich and the upper middle class, having more open space, parks, malls, entertainment facilities, access to amenities, and even townships. These days, this is very common, townships being built, having infrastructure comparable to the developed part of the world, and all fancy things you will get there. If the streets are lined, absolutely clean, as though you are in some part of Europe. In contrast to this are the sprawling slums with minimum basic infrastructure. Dharavi is an example, where one-room shanties houses large number of migrants. The urban poor, devoid of basic human needs, who come in search of livelihoods from the rural and underdeveloped states and districts of India. The 11th and 12th 5-year plans did make provisions to provide the basic amenities to these urban poor in the form of shelter, water, sanitation. But, as it happens, our planning process, it never got implemented in the proper way. Now, if you look into these migrants, these are mainly workforce who may be seasonal or permanent, often remitting money back home and surviving in these urban centers. They are underpaid, exploited, overworked, and they are employed in the unorganized tertiary sector. We hardly get any data about them. Doing odd jobs without whose support we cannot exist. Building our houses and other infrastructure, working as domestic helpers, vegetables, and food vendors, as taxi drivers, commuting us to our different destinations, making our lives easy, providing cheap labor, and often ignored, and they are surviving the peripheries. This internal migrant force have existed in our midst, but have now come to focus with COVID-19 lockdown situation, when out of desperation, they decided to walk back home, and our TV sets beamed with pictures of their sufferings. Uh, Many of us became conscious of their miseries, including the policymakers who had so long been oblivion to their sufferings. We knew that they existed, but we did not pay much heed to them. That's how we are. And almost ignored, they are almost ignored in the policy decisions. Vote time, we remember, after that, we forget them. Now, this tragic exodus of migrants returning home, triggered by the national lockdown to curb the spread of novel coronavirus, reflects the lack of preparedness by the administration to face any crisis, not only this crisis, but any crisis. The big cities attracting the migrants lack in night shelters. It was only Delhi, I think, which was reporting that they have 1 or 2 night shelters. Community kitchens are not there. Public toilets are not there. Despite the claim of free food being arranged by the authorities and civil society, the migrants, mostly comprising of daily wage labor force, complained of hunger and in the absence of livelihoods, bereft of money, savings, shelter, and food, with railways and bus services suspended, they had few options but walking back home. Uh, this shows how, I mean, insensitive we are to the poor. As per World Bank report, around 40 million internal migrants' livelihood has been impacted by this lockdown. About 50,000 to 60,000 migrants have trudged back home from the big cities of India. Hundreds of the migrants have died on their way, and you all must have seen. Just terrible, terrible to see them. In the TV, the TV was beaming with it. The migrants justified their lack of social distancing and movement during the lockdown as they feared that not out of the virus but out of hunger they may perish. This was, one of the interviews in the TV, and he was telling that it is not virus which will kill me, but hunger will definitely kill me. Social distancing was ruled out as tides of humanity, like waves in the ocean, decided to walk back home to survive, unfolding the humanitarian crisis. The builders of our cities walking and cycling back hundreds of kilometers to their respective villages, suggesting how exclusive has been our development process. Uh, I would like to share a map, to show you from which states they were walking. Mm, I think it's visible. Yes, these are the states. These are the states they were walking from. The reverse migration was walking from Gujarat, then Maharashtra. Mainly these states, they were walking from the Delhi, Punjab, then Haryana. They are walking towards eastern India. And central India. They are mainly going to Madhya Pradesh, states of Chhattisgarh, then Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. Some are also moving towards Rajasthan. The southern Indian states also have huge number of migrants, internal migrants, but here the migrants were not walking because the distance is very big, so they did not walk back. They were not walking as such. Now, why would they walking to these eastern states and central states? Now let us look into it. Now I think this table explains it very nicely. If you look into our GDP, we have at present around 3 trillion rupees, 3 trillion, this thing, around 231.85 lakh GDP in rupees. Now you see the maximum share is from the southern states, and they support around 20.76 population. And then comes the western zone, having a share of 25.96. Northern zone has a share of around 14% of the GDP. Northern zone, it is Punjab, Haryana, mainly agricultural, where our green revolution occurred, and Delhi and surrounding areas. When we look into the central zone, we see its share is 11.17, but its population share is very high, 25.32. More than a quarter stays in the central zone. Then we look into the eastern zone. It is around, the share of GDP is around 9.74, and the population share is around slightly less than a quarter. And the northeastern zone, we have a very less share of population, but 68% of the population is living in the plains of Assam, and we have around 2.06 of the GDP share, and maximum is concentrated in Assam. If you look into the statistics, it's 4 out of 5, 4 lakh crores is in Assam. The rest is divided between the other states. So this is the scenario. So I'll give you these zones, okay? The southern zone uh, mainly comprises of the states of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Puducherry. Western zone comprises of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Daman, Diu, Dadra, Nagar Haveli. The northern zone is Chandigarh, the Delhi and its surroundings, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan. I would like to say that Rajasthan and there is also Uttaranchal here, but these two states are not doing that well. They are one of those two states which are sending migrants. Okay. Then the central zone comes, under this comes Uttar Pradesh, where 16% of our population stays. Then Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh. And the eastern zone comprises of Bihar, West Bengal, Jharkhand, and Odisha, the most fertile area of India. Northeastern zone, as you know, it's Assam and the other states. Okay, so uh, now if you look into, I mean, government of India, we see that around 8 states, namely UP, okay, then uh, I think Bihar, right? Uh, Bihar, then Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Uttaranchal, and Rajasthan. They say that they lack in socio-economic development, and they have been categorized as the EAG states, which need special attention because they have not been able to achieve the TFRs. These are the states which are growing in population, lacking in economic development. These EAG states, they lag in demographic transition, reporting higher growth rate of population than the national average. They also report higher concentration of rural population. They also have, they are also the states reporting higher share of unemployment. You know, the statistics are there, but in this slide I did not give it because it's available in the, I mean, internet. Just open the site and you can easily get it. And this is why they are migrating, right? So the South and the Western states are leading in the development process, followed by the Northern states. And Northern states, I told you already that Punjab, Haryana had taken up the development process with the Green Revolution. And later with liberalization, Delhi emerged as one of the hubs of development. They are also more urbanized in comparison to the less developed states of Central and Eastern India. And the demographic growth is relatively low in these states. The TFRs have been, the total fertility rate has been controlled, sometimes reporting less than the replacement level. That means replacement level is 2.1. That means a couple with 2 children. Okay. But you know, southern states, they report less than 2. They report as 1.1. They are as good as the developed country parts of the world. While the migrant sending states and central states have higher concentration of rural population, report high population growth rate, and the TFR is also higher. Bihar has a TFR of 3 to 4 per woman. So it is really high. As most of our development process are urban oriented, hence the rural folk have to move to the urban centers in order to survive. Now, besides financial motives, the rural urban migration also provide opportunities to the lower caste to escape from the caste-based oppression. This is also a factor of migration to the urban areas. Then women want to break free from the patriarchal constraints and they like to move to the urban centers. For children, you know, you have a better life in the urban centers. You know, often children are sent to the urban centers because they get quality education. So it is not only financial factor which determines the rural urban migration. There are other factors as well. Now with liberalization, the service sector has grown enormously, and with it has emerged big cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi and its surroundings, Mumbai. Okay, of course, Mumbai was already a very developed city, but it got further impetus of development. And it has emerged as the hub of not only the service sector, but also of education, trade, and commerce. Here, there is a great demand for cheap labor to serve the high salaried private sector employees. With increasing purchasing power of a section of population, these cities are emerging into spaces of consumption with malls, entertainment, parks, and all these functions I mean, we need the migrant labor who are doing the odd jobs as guards in the, you know, in the entertainment parks and in the consumption, I mean, in the malls. We all like to go to the malls, but most of the guards are from Eastern India, you know, security peoples doing small jobs. In the beauty parlors you go, you find that they are doing small jobs. In the restaurant you go, you find these people from Eastern India and Central India are doing all the odd jobs. On the contrary, recent data suggests that unemployment rate in Bihar is as high as 46.6%, followed by UP 21.5%, West Bengal 17.4%. And this explains why this internal migration is occurring. And our administration, unfortunately, was caught unaware about the migrant movement as they did not have adequate data on the volume of our internal migration. In fact, I would like to say here that, you know, our data gathering organization is only two here, internal migration. One is NSS, National Sample Survey Organization, and the other is Indian Census. Uh, the NSS had given data in its 64th round, which is on 2007-8. And at that time, we had data of how much of internal migration had occurred. And then the census has some fault, you know, it takes this as your last place of residence. But you know, when the migration is seasonal, as it is happens in India, or it is circular, you know, you go and you come back after 2 months, that sort of a migration, then they do not report the state where they have migrated as their state. They report the state where they are migrating as their state. So this never gets, it never comes into the report. So I think that is one of the reasons. First thing we need to do is we need to look into our data collection process. And now some interesting facts which emerge when we look into this internal migration is, first thing is this lack of adequate data on the volume of internal migration and its dynamics. Then most of the migrants are from central and eastern Indian states, and their destination states are south, west, and northern Indian states. The migrant stream is predominantly rural to urban. They comprise of low income group, mainly working in the informal sector. They have not permanently relocated their families to the cities, and they make trips back home because they are seasonal. So they make, even if they are not seasonal, they like to come back home. A large chunk of the migrants are seasonal migrants, making trips back home, remitting back money, and improving the economic and social condition of their families while they live in the open, in the slums, sleep on the footpaths, doing odd jobs, often facing hostility from the police, administration, and civil society. They are the very neglected part of our population. So this is going to have, it is having an implication, already having an implication. As we see the vast wave of reverse migrants, they have reached their villages, and now we are in the midst of a crisis. And this crisis is seen in the employment scenario of most of the seats, and they are witnessing deterioration in every field. Poverty and hunger are increasing, health and quality of life are decreasing. Many children are dropping out of school, losing their life opportunities. Now, according to eminent economists, they are suggesting that government gives an uninterrupted supply of food and financial assistance to these poor, and then only we can have a smooth functioning of our economy. Uh, Proper integration of the returned migrants in their native place is essential, for which the Manrega scheme has already been revived by the government. In the short run, the migrants have suffered, but in the long run, they have opened our eyes on whose shoulder our economy rests. Now we are realizing their value. They can now unite, asking for higher wages. In fact, states like Punjab, etc., they are giving higher wages. Kerala, I think more than 1,000 rupees per day. Their wage has increased, and they need to, but for that they need to unite together. Without, I mean, without these migrants, our cities, industries, informal sectors such as the construction work sites, our taxis, the domestic service, etc., will not function. And if you look into states like Punjab, Haryana, the rural sector also suffers as the migrants are the agricultural labor force working in the agricultural fields of these states. So now the migrants have a better bargaining power. This is the plus point, I think. But for that, they need to unite and we need to have good policies. So what can we do? Let us see. We have so long underestimated the role of the migrants in the Indian economy and failed to recognize their contribution. We knew they existed, but never acknowledged their presence, even in policy matters. First, we need to create a data system in order to capture the internal migration dynamics and provide public policies for the migrants and their families with a decent and a dignified livelihood, affordable housing, access to sanitation and health, and above all, proper wage. Government needs to be proactive and create local resource. There is need to provide more development opportunities to the underdeveloped states. Everything comes, it gets concentrated on those few cities which have already developed. But the other cities are also there in India. They are neglected. As eastern and central Indian states are blessed with fertile soil, especially eastern India, first fertile soil, and central India, there are plenty of mineral resources. We need to encourage growth in entrepreneurship activities in agriculture and manufacturing sector. And this can generate employment opportunities across states. The Make in India scheme is an excellent proposal where we can attract foreign direct investment to generate employment. But for that, we need investor-friendly policies along with proper labor laws, where both the center and the state government needs to work together and it needs to be implemented. It just need not be in paper only, because the central government did come up with a big program, but implementation is the basic thing that needs to be highlighted. At present, most of our policies tries to restrict rural urban migration. Uh, the rural urban migration is seen as more of a distress. Out of distress, people move out. That is how we view it, where the push factors are dominant, burdening the urban system. These poor people, they are eating on our urban system. They are not paying taxes. So why should we bother about them? That sort of approach. But this approach needs to be changed, as the rural migrants not only contribute to the urban society and economy, but also help in developing the rural economy. Uh, if you look into the NSS data on internal remittances, it suggests that about $10 billion are remitted back home. 2007-8. For 1 year, only $10 billion are remitted back home. And for millions of rural households, these remittances are crucial source of income, having the potential for improving human capital, influencing education, age at marriage, providing better nutrition and health. The migrants not only bring money back home, but also better skills and ideas that can also help in the development of the entire rural sector. So this linkage should be on. This rural urban linkage should be on, where both the urban sector as well as the rural sector will benefit. At present, our big cities are sites of exclusive development, and this became vivid, in the COVID-19 situation in front of us as our TV beamed with the migrants moving home. So this speaks of inequalities in our process of development. This does not mean we need to check internal migration, but rather make our cities inclusive, where migrants are welcome, and accommodate them with affordable housing and other amenities, with laws to protect them from exploitation. At the same time, the disparity in the process of development of the Indian states need to be addressed, and the awareness to control the TFRs of the underserved states needs attention. And in this context, I would like to say that we are at the process, experiencing a demographic challenge. Our youth population is increasing. We are at a pace of time when the dependency ratio is falling, because family planning has reached the people, most of the people. We are good, we have achieved something there, right? And the burden of the old age population is not also very high. We have very young youth force. And if this youth force is channelized, we can have a demographic dividend. This is the window period when India can move forward. But unfortunately, the states which are having a big chunk of youth population are also the states which are underserved. And they need attention. So this can only lay a foundation for a prosperous India, and we can solve this problem of internal migration. Internal migration needs to be encouraged. We always give so much of weightage to external migration. The moment, I mean, this sickness came to the forefront, our government put in a lot of effort to collect the international migrants from the other parts. They brought in the disease, but we forgot about our internal migrants, and then we had to pay a big price for it. So with this, I think I'll end. Thank you so much for giving me this privilege to share my views on this migration problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Who cannot forget the images of people filling the streets of many of our states in our country? And who cannot forget the comparisons made between international migrants being put in a plane provided with PPEs, while our migrants, internal migrants, are left out on the street, crowding in at bus stations and in railway stations without proper social distancing, without proper facilities being provided to them. Very pertinent issues that you have raised, ma'am, and you have also opened our eyes to many aspects of the internal immigrants that we are not aware of, that we have not been aware of. And so today we got to learn something very interesting from you, and very, very insightful presentation indeed. We have had 3 presentations, 3 sessions on very serious issues, from border issues to electromagnetic radiation to migrant issues. But I'm very happy that we're going to end on a happier note, at least something different to think about, something different to look at. So at this moment, we would like to invite Ms. Medari Tham, who will be talking to us about how she was able to upskill herself during the time of lockdown. And so without taking too much time, ma'am, over to you on technical upskilling during the lockdown, a personal account. Over to you, ma'am Medari.
Hello, everyone. Good
Hi.
afternoon. I'll be sharing with you my personal experiences on technical upskilling during the lockdown. So let me share my screen. 1 second. So technical upskilling, I feel, is relevant to all educators, irrespective of any field, be it sciences, social sciences, humanities, and others. And before I begin, I would like to explain what is technical skill. According to me, technical skill is the ability to understand and know the use of analytical tools and techniques required to teach and research a particular subject. Now, conventionally, how do we learn? How do we refresh ourselves? How do we discover or upgrade our technical skill? Conventionally, it is through seminars, workshops, refresher courses, orientation programs, summer or winter school, and so on. Personally, I face many issues here. The first one, if I'm interested in a program or in that actually caters to my interests, the main challenges are distance, cost, work commitments, and sometimes even a program that is 100 kilometers away, a 2-week program, it's not even feasible for me. And secondly, if I attend a program, what I normally experience is that the lectures might be too generic or they do not cater to my requirements. On the other hand, I can go or use self-study, but here there are other types of challenges, particularly when it is a new method or a new technique. And I face this challenge when there are lack of resources. So my online journey began way back in 2013 when I got an interest into machine learning, which is related to my research work. And I was wondering, and I think all of you might be aware that machine learning has impacted my field, natural language processing. And in fact, all of us, whether we know it or not, are impacted by machine learning. If you're using Google for searching for resources, the algorithms behind those search engines are machine learning so that they improve your search results. So my journey, when I was when I was learning machine learning, I was so much interested in learning the algorithms behind, for example, predicting the next word, predicting spellings, much that you see in your phones. But in my case, it is more relevant to my research. So what do I do? So I begin Googling for resources, and I realized that my disadvantage was the fact is that I was a part-time research scholar. My guide was far away from me, and I am sitting in this remote corner in the northeastern part of India, far away from the academic and research hub like Delhi and other metropolitan cities. And I was feeling frustrated because I want to learn something and did not know how to go about it. And then my Googling for resources, I went online, and then in the year 2013, 2014, I came across a 10-week online course on machine learning offered by a top university in the United States of America, Stanford University. And I was experiencing this feeling that here I'm in the comfort of my home, in the corner of the world, and being able to access the instruction and resources of a university in the United States, that too one of the top universities in the world. And I experienced that feeling like that very acclaimed author, Thomas Friedman, said in his book that the world has become flat. In the book also titled The World is Flat, where geographical disadvantage like me is actually wiped out by the internet, by the use of the internet. I may have to counter Sir Shantu, because I did also benefit from the technological bridge that was the internet way back in 2013 and 2014. And when I enrolled myself in this course, what I experienced was that I began to understand the algorithms basic behind these, what is happening in database mining. And when you look at your email, you know that your email is also having a spam filter. It was powered by machine learning. All of us have experienced self-customizing programs. For example, if you use Amazon, the product reviews given by Amazon is actually powered by machine learning. And I've already mentioned search engines and then natural language processing. The list goes on and on: computer vision, handwritten recognition, autopilot. And this has piqued my interest, and I did not stop here. I've also taken this to the classroom. For example, at that time, also Android programming was actually the hype, and I again enrolled in an Android programming course and other courses during the way. And though I could not complete these courses, this machine learning program, I was able to complete it in June, if you can see here, June 2014. And then the other courses that I did catch up when I was working as a full-time teacher and so on, and also involved in a ongoing minor project, I realized that the benefits of these online courses, I could take it to the classroom where I can easily share with my students recent developments in a particular field with the confidence given by these courses. So what I did was after this machine learning, then we came to realize that suddenly we are amassing huge amount of data. All of us know that with the advent of the internet, we are amassing a lot of data, be it images, be it videos, be it text. We are amassing, and with sensors all around, we are amassing a lot of data. And this has given rise to another field called deep learning. So this evolvement of deep learning from machine learning, this happened this happened also a few years back. And again, I faced the same scenario. Where do I learn the tools? Where do I learn the techniques behind deep learning? Where do I go to? And deep learning has impacted natural language processing in a big way. For example, in speech recognition, while I'm talking right now, deep learning can be used for example, an automated transcription of my speech. It is being used in a big way in machine translation, in self-driving cars. If you look at self-driving cars, they are powered by deep learning to automatically detect pedestrians, to automatically detect stop signs. And during the lockdown, if you have been using Netflix, most of your movie recommendations have been powered by deep learning. Not that machine learning was not used earlier, but they have become more efficient to actually tune into your preferences. And you must have experienced this with virtual assistants like Alexa or Siri or Google Assistant and so on. So deep learning is impacting our field in a big way. And again, the same question, which I'm sure all educators are facing, is how do we upgrade ourselves? How do we catch on with all these tools and techniques that we need to learn and also upgrade ourselves? So again, like I did way back in 2013, 2014, I went online, and this time I came across a specialization. Now here, this specialization comprises of five courses offered by the same top instructor from Stanford University, who's also the co-founder of Coursera. You can look up on Andrew Ng. And what I did was I wanted to join these five courses because I know it's very relevant to my research area and research interests. But because of my teaching commitments, family commitments, I was not able to join these advanced or specialized courses. Then came the lockdown. In March 16, if not, I'm not mistaken, March 16, 2020, all schools and colleges were locked down here in Shillong. And what did I do? 1 week later, I joined the first course in deep learning, that is the neural networks and deep learning. Now, when I joined this course, when I enrolled in this course, what I realized was that the instructor was able to demystify all these algorithms that were running behind the scenes. And he explained the computations involved in an easy to understand manner. When I completed this course during lockdown, I immediately went to the next course in the series. Here I learned how to fine tune the parameters that I learned in the first course. That too with hands-on coding, hands-on programming exercises, and a lot of discussion going on. And then I completed these two courses, just to show you for your reference, these two courses by the first week of May. After this, I was able to understand that now I can safely jump to the fifth course. This is possible because I've understood after these two courses, I can jump to the fifth course because this is more relevant to what I was actually reading at that time. And when I joined the fifth course, the best takeaway from this program was that after I completed the course, I can now relate to all the research documents, recent research papers on deep learning, and they are not as daunting and challenging as they were earlier. For example, the instructor during the course will always cite research papers behind the techniques that he is discussing in the class. They will also update us with what is happening in the research field, and to get that first-hand experience from this corner of the world, accessing what is happening live, I can say, what is happening in the Silicon Valley is invaluable to me. And before my subscription end, I'll come to that. I joined a software course, which is the third course in the series, Structuring Machine Learning Projects. Here they do give you tips, real life tips of their experiencing, because when you get tips from them, they give tips on how to actually manage a live machine learning project so that your projects won't get delayed by 6 months, or let's say even a year, because some projects do get delayed just because of a problem with the tuning of the parameters in the deep learning. So here you get real life tips of what to avoid when you actually initiate a real life project. And I have benefited a lot from these courses because last year in the month of January, I was able to launch my own website where I could place the tools that I've developed online for everyone to actually look up to. So these courses have proven to be very beneficial, especially during the lockdown. And what I should say was that during the lockdown, I finished four courses, which was not possible during your full time schedule. During my full time schedule, I could not. Most of the time, I ordered the courses, but it was not possible to give that commitment that these courses require during your full time schedule. So let me just give you some tips on what do I look out in an online course. Now, MOOCs, that is what we say, massive open online courses, they do have various categories of courses. For example, like upcoming, you can check whether when the course will start. In progress, if you join these in progress course, you have to see whether you can catch up with them. Self-paced, the ones that I have been doing, they're all self-paced. You enroll the day you join, and they will give you the ending date from the day you join. Of course, you cannot join a finished course. You should have a topic of interest in mind, like I did, because I'm interested in this field, so I do have a topic of interest. Do look out for what institution is offering the course. For me, it was not a problem. It was Stanford University. And then if you are not sure, you can check at the rating of the course and the instructor, because you may have the same courses offered by various universities. So the rating will help. And then please do check out the prerequisites. I do check out the prerequisites. Do I have the technical skill required to handle this course? But the best part I feel is you should audit a few videos. In other words, you go through these few 1 or 2, 3 videos before you actually commit yourself to this online course, and you will have an idea whether these videos will give you whether you can understand the difficulty level behind the classes. And if you're sure, then you can commit to it with a subscription. It's a very nominal fee for most of us. I do believe it's a nominal fee. And but one thing is if you're not interested in a certificate or you're not interested in a subscription, you can always audit the entire course and take something from it. And there has been a report, I came across a report that only 4% of the learners complete the courses. But according to me, the 4% is quite a big number. And if you check out Coursera, in their blog site, they do give tips on how to help complete course completion. And then recently I came across an article by Anand Agarwal in the edX website on 15th of June 2020, where they also discuss what are the factors that help learners complete the course that they start. So there are so many tips here. They've mentioned 8, but I would like to focus on the third one. This seems to be the most common one across various documents that I have been reading regarding on factors to help course completion. For example, I'm accountable to my family. I have a family, I have children, so I have to give an account to them that I have joined this course. They are not supposed to disturb me while I'm doing this course, and so on. Sometimes I have to ask my husband to help me. So I'm accountable to my family when I join an online course. And the tips that have been given in Coursera and also in edX, they have given that you can create this accountability by informing your friends in WhatsApp or maybe a Facebook group. In that way, this accountability gives you the main support to actually help you complete a course. The others you can always check out, they do help. And then, why do MOOCs play such a big role? I came across again this article where online learning goes next from the Harvard Business Review, 4th October 2019. Whether we like it or not, technology is transforming jobs and skill faster than you and I can adapt. And according to Coursera's Global Skills Index 2019, two-thirds of the world's population is falling behind in critical skills. And by in just 2 years from now, core skills required to perform most roles will change by 42%. That is what is being mentioned in the World Economic Forum. And there is a demand that apart from the courses we are offering to our students, we also have to provide upskilling for our students. And I do believe that it is also important as educators to stay relevant in our respective fields. And MOOCs have given such a big opportunity for all of us. And then I would also like to discuss on what are the benefits of MOOCs. If you might want to know some data here, again, I came across, you can go through the entire report on who's benefiting from MOOCs and why. This was also reported in the Harvard Business Review. Among those who complete the online courses as of April 2014, this was a report as of April 2015. Currently, we are touching 60 million learners. 28% of those who completed these courses are people like me who wants to enrich ourselves in our respective fields. They call us education seekers. And based on the survey data of 780,000 people from 212 countries, they did this survey, and the report says that the intangible benefits of a MOOCs online course are the educational benefits. 80% reported an educational benefit from these online courses. And if you see, they've divided all the factors, and I definitely fall in this 64% category, where we've gained essential knowledge in our respective field of study. And just recently, I read in The Guardian that upskilling is definitely for everyone, because Coursera itself witnessed an 8-fold increase in enrollment since the coronavirus outbreak. And I'm sure that if we all get into this bandwagon, it's definitely not a bad idea. And what are the personal benefits? I can definitely share from the personal experiences, and also reported in The Guardian again, that if you learn a new skill, you do have a sense of control that will help us cope with this anxiety engendered by the epidemic. And reports have also been mentioned that the satisfaction that you receive, maybe watching a lecture that is 16 minutes, 11 minutes, might not be so enticing, might not be as enticing like browsing through social media. But when you complete the course, the level of satisfaction and self-esteem is much more than what we experience when we actually browse through social media. And with social distancing in the norm, you can safely upskill yourself and upgrade yourself from the safety and comfort of your home. And then, just to add, there are also additional benefits. In fact, UGC, AICTE have also recognized that, I'm sure most of you must be knowing this, they've also recognized that these online courses are equivalent to a refresher, even a full FTP. So while you're at home, you can even complete one refresher course. But UGC offers this through SWAYAM via the NPTEL program, National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning. And you have to check whether these NPTEL program are UGC approved under the Annual Research Program in Teaching, ARPIT, where you have to watch 20 hours videos, and then after that you'll have to sit for a test, and it's equivalent. You'll have to really go through the documents and so on. But every NPTEL course will have a line saying this is under ARPIT, this is under, it's an FDP approved AICTE course. And if you see here, 4 weeks course, which is maybe you have to sit 3 hours per week, you will get a half FDP, and 8 weeks course, you will get a full FDP. So even these organizations are recognizing the benefits of upskilling through online courses. And To conclude, maybe I'm the shortest speaker here. To conclude, I do recommend that you choose wisely because I'm sure that in the new post-COVID era, upskilling will be the most important investment you can make. I think I do have to agree with a very famous quote by Alvin Toffler, futurist and business leader, where he said, "The illiterate of the future are people who are not people who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." And one final tip is that whenever you picked a course, choose it with the right difficulty, something beyond your comfort zone, but not too difficult where you end up being frustrated. In fact, that is why I do recommend auditing videos before you do commit to the course, before you commit it with a subscription and so on. And so, my concluding remarks, all the best in your upskilling journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Once again, we have been blessed, I would like to use the word, with new ways of learning. And as we are spending time at home, uh, and surrounded by all the news about COVID-19 and the numbers of people being affected by it, the tendency is to be to freeze or to be pushed into a corner. But here is a new way of actually spending your time and learning something at the same time, shifting your focus from the tension that is there and from the pressure around you, and you can now learn something while you're sitting at home from the comfort of your own room. So thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your personal journey with us. It has been a wonderful trip down memory lane, and especially for you, being able to earn those certificates, it is something really wonderful. We will now open very briefly for reactions from our four panelists. And because of the shortage of time, we will be able to give you only 1 minute to do that. So I was starting with Dr. Rakul Purkayasta. If you have anything, sir, to say for 1 minute, something that you would like to add to your own presentation or something that you would like to say regarding the presentation given by other panelists. So we're starting with Dr. Rakul Purkayasta. Then I will invite all the other panelists to come one by one, Dr. Shantu, Dr. Shubrata, and Ma'am Medari. If you can kindly say a few words before we wind up for today's session. Sir, over to you, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer for giving me a chance to share my views, especially Brother Albert, Father Joby, Professor Jacob, Professor Nathaniel, Professor Bablu, and all those people who are behind this webinar. As I had said earlier, the problem is tricky between India and Nepal. It is something that cannot be solved on the basis of emotions. It has to be solved very rationally. Mr. Oli, the present prime minister, is by compulsion what he call anti-India, because that was a plank on which he won the election in 2015. Even I was seeing the newspaper report yesterday that on Sunday he had said that there are plots being hatched in Delhi to remove me, talking about the faction that he is facing in the party. He already had his second kidney transplant, so he's not been keeping very good health. What is needed really is to improve people to people contact. I think there is no breach of trust as far as people are concerned. Even the chief of their army, he had said that he has nothing much to add to the border crisis. And by convention, the chief of Indian army is a general of Nepal army, and the chief of Nepal army is a general in Indian army. So even they said they have nothing much to add on this crisis. China is playing up. We have a very active ambassador there, Ho Yanki. She is very, very active in social media. She has been dancing, she has been singing. She was very successful in Pakistan. But then it all depends on India, like how much understanding we are regarding the problem that Nepal is facing. Like if we have some kind of what you call maybe a deeper kind of exchanges, we'll be able to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Just before we go to Dr. Shantu, I would like to inform the attendees that the link to the feedback form is now activated. But before you do that, please kindly also select the correct option. If you have registered for this webinar, then please select registered. If not, then please select that you have attended either today or that you have not registered for the webinar, so that we will be able to do the needful. Over to you, Dr. Shantu. Any closing remarks before we go
Okay.
on to the conclusion?
I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to take this chance to thank Father Joby and Brother Principal for all the support. And thanks to you, Sir Jacob and Nathaniel, for the technical support. In conclusion, what I can say is technology is here to stay. There is nothing doing about it. We have to live with technology. It is coming. We have to use it. We'll have to live with it. But only point is, when we are all talking about the effects of social and psychological effects of technology, rarely will hear anyone talking about the health impacts of this technology that we are embracing in our daily lives. So what we need is a cautious approach and use technology wisely so that it is of benefit to all of us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for your closing remarks. I think we need to draw the line somewhere when we're using anything. Moderation is always the best formula to adopt. So use technology, but keep it within a certain limit. Over to you, ma'am, Dr. Subrata, for any closing remarks on the migrant issues.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers. And I think we need to become sensitive about our poor. You know, we often ignore them, but migration is to stay. It will stay. It is welcome. Internal migration is welcome, but we need better housing. We need to have programs which address urban poor. We always give highlight to the rural urban folk, but urban poor also exists, and without them, we will also not exist. Moreover, in the demographic section, we need to control our population size, especially those states which are growing fast. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Definitely, this is something that we should, that the government of India should take up very, very closely and work along the lines that you have suggested. Perhaps if maybe this is something that we can share with the government of India and help the poor immigrants who are contributing a great deal to the country's economy. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your closing remarks. Over to you, ma'am, Ms. Medari, if you have anything to say, something to add to your wonderful journey.
Well, I would like to thank all the organizers, from Brother Albert to Father Joby to yourself, Jacob, and then to Nathaniel and Pablo and Om. I know they're also behind the team. But do you know one thing? I think I learned something from this webinar. From each the panelists, I learned something. That is what I was trying to say earlier also in my presentation, that we do learn and we do take away from these online programs such as webinars. It can be a webinar like this, it can be a course like this, and especially during this lockdown, I think not only as educators but also as students, if they have that sense of achievement by doing these online courses, it will help them cope with whatever anxiety they may be going through during this lockdown. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So on behalf of all the 7 colleges that are organizing this particular webinar, the consortium, we would like to thank Dr. Rakal Purkayasta, Dr. Shantu Saikia, Dr. Subrata Purkayasta, and Ms. Medari Tham for your contribution, for your presentation. They were all well researched, well studied, and well presented. As you can see from the chat box, we have received a lot of positive remarks and comments from our attendees. So we are very, very grateful to you for having spent your valuable time in preparing the presentations, and especially for sitting with us through this last 2 hours to participate in this webinar. So thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, attendees, for being with us today. The links are up on the chat box. You can now fill in your feedbacks. If you are not able to open the link, maybe it's your internet connection. So you kindly just restart your devices or restart your browser, and you will be able to get onto the link. Please remember, you must tell us whether you have registered previously for this webinar or if you've just joined us on Facebook, on YouTube, or on this webinar. So thank you so much all for being with us. So from St. Anthony's College, we're signing out. God bless. Stay safe, stay home, and ever more better ever. Jai Hind, Namaste, and Kublai Shibud.